Hello, my name is Sharianne Menendez, and today we're going to present the South Alhambra Circle bike lane and shared use path concepts. I just wanted to apologize for the technical difficulties that we've had. Sorry for the delay, but hopefully you'll find this presentation informative. At the end of the presentation, you'll have the opportunity to vote so we can gauge what type of bicycle facility you would prefer. For this slide, we will go over today's meeting agenda. First, we will be reviewing the project overview, which we will present the map and project limits. Next, we'll be going over the two conceptual options, which are option 1, the shared use path concept, and option 2, the bike lanes concept. The next two action items are the preliminary tree impacts and the potential parking changes. It is important to note at this point that the concepts are preliminary, and after the feedback from today's meeting, if the design for either of the two is adjusted or changed, these tree impacts and parking changes would also be impacted. Lastly, we'll go over the schedule, which are the next steps. The project overview slide includes a map of the project limits for the South Alhambra Circle project. It runs along South Alhambra from US 1 to Triumphal Street, and it's here illustrated in green. Now we'll start going over the typical sections for each of the two options. For option 1, the first typical section that we will show for the shared use path is at the intersection of US 1 and South Alhambra Circle. The red arrow is pointing towards the west side of the roadway, which will include the shared use path, which is 10 feet wide. The travel lanes at this particular location are 11 foot wide, and also the sidewalk to the east will stay as existing with a 6 foot wide sidewalk. This typical section is for the shared use path between South Dixie Highway and Nervius Street. The shared use path is again 10 feet wide, and it's on the west side of the roadway. This typical section was shown to illustrate that at this location there would be angled and also parallel parking. Furthermore, there will be 11-foot travel lanes at this location. The last typical section that we'll show for the shared use path today is between Nervius Street and Dominical Avenue. This part of the roadway is a bit more residential. Again, the shared use path is on the west side of the roadway. It's 10 feet wide. The travel lanes at this location or segment are 10 feet in each direction, and the sidewalk is to remain on the east side. The next conceptual option that we're going to go over is option 2, which are the bike lanes. Again, we're going to start at South Dixie Highway and South Alhambra Circle. We're facing northwest at this location. We are proposing 5-foot bike lanes in each direction and also 11-foot travel lanes at this particular intersection. There is a 6-foot sidewalk existing northbound and a 5-foot sidewalk southbound as well. This is the second typical section for the bike lanes concept. It's between South Dixie Highway and Nervius Street. For this typical section, we're illustrating 5-foot bike lanes, 10 feet wide travel lanes, and a 3-foot buffer adjacent to the parallel parking and 1-foot buffer adjacent to the angled parking. There are 5-foot sidewalks on either side. The last typical section for the bike lanes concept is between Nervius Street and Triumphal Street. Again, we see 5-foot bike lanes and 10-foot travel lanes. For this typical section, the white striping are the buffer segments, which are 2 feet each. The existing 6-foot sidewalks are to remain as well. This slide illustrates the buffered bike lane treatment options, which include flexible delineator post, depressed curb, armadillos, concrete pills, temporary curb, parking stops, cyclist zipper systems, and wave delineators. The table on the slide illustrates the tree impacts for each of the two concepts. For the buffered bike lane concept, 12 palm trees would be impacted. For the shared use path concept, there would be 15 palm trees that would be impacted and 2 oak trees, for a total of 17 tree impacts. This slide illustrates the impacted oak trees for this shared use concept. The 2 trees that are highlighted in the photograph above on the top left corner are the same as those that are circled in the roll plot screenshot. Basically, we'll be shifting these 2 trees west and closer to the property line, and they're smaller oak trees, so we would be able to move them. This slide depicts the potential parking changes. Currently, there are 32 parking spaces, both in northbound and southbound directions. The buffered bike lane option would provide 40 parking spaces, and with the shared use path, there would be 33 parking spaces. For the next steps for this project, we will be going over the different phases for the project's duration. First, phase 1, the planning and concept design development has been completed, which are the roll plots that we will be sharing with you today. Phase 2 is a public meeting, which took place on June 2nd, 2022. Between phase 2 and phase 3, we will be conducting a survey to determine the preferred alternative and also which alternative will be selected for ballot. Phase 3 and phase 4 are the preliminary and final design and construction, which will take place if this project moves forward. Once we determine what the preferred alternative is from the survey results, we will be mailing out ballots to the residents that are directly impacted by this project. If we get 2/3 concurrency of the return ballots, we will determine whether or not to move forward with this project. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is listed on the slide. Please note that a copy of the roll plots of the 2 concepts, this presentation, and the survey link will be available on the project's website.